with the WhatsApp integration, you'd see a lot of cold calling come down. So when you get a call like this, you have the rights to complain, and the broker, the agency gets heavily penalized for that. UAE, Dubai is at a brilliant place right now, especially if you're referring to real estate. I'd say it's one of the biggest business today. Real estate in different forms, as a developer, as a broker, as facilities, as community managers, is a huge business. And if this industry were not there, I think about 50% of people would be without jobs. That's just a random figure at the top of my head. But I think a good number of people are associated with this business.
I can only imagine, because Dubai, the rate of growth in Dubai is just crazy.
My estimate says that there are about at least 25 to 30,000 brokers in Dubai. Individual brokers.
Individual brokers.
Individual brokers.
That's a population.
Of a small city.
Exactly. That's a population of a small city, just selling and buying and just kind of brokering all these units.
In Dubai, real estate is a national pastime.
Oh, wow.
So you always have something to do with it. I'm sure as even a podcast host, you have something to do with real estate because you're interested in buying, you're interested in renting.
I have my properties
You
that
have
I
your
sell and buy.
property.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes,
then
yes.
so you're
It's
of
true.
interest to me.
Of course.
Today I'm on your podcast, and tomorrow I'm going to call you and say, okay, what were you referring to in the podcast to buy or
That's
sell?
true.
So I think real estate out here, everybody's interested. That's why, so you don't need to really go out and do networking for real estate. You just go to the gym and talk to people around you, and you have your clients out there. You go for a party, enjoy, but obviously you don't meet the same friends every now and then. You meet different people from time to time, and you got your clients out there. You just go out and have fun, and you get your clients because everybody's buying property.
So the prerequisite of being a broker is you have to be an extrovert.
Absolutely. It goes without saying, you have to be an extrovert. I'm telling you, I've had times where I've spoken to people in the elevator and they have become friends and we have done business together.
I know. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's the other day, a friend of mine is abroad. So he has his friend here, who I don't know, and he wanted to drop me something. So the guy came, and it happened that both of us have the same car. Exactly, right? So it's like, oh, nice car. And he started talking to me, and he was so outgoing and asking me about my business and what I do and how am I living here and how long have I been living here. I was like, what do you do? He's like, I'm a real estate broker. I was like, okay, makes sense. You're so into the person in front of
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
You're so interested in them. But here's the thought, and this is, I'm sure you know this so well. I get 20 calls a day.
Indeed.
What's up with that?
Well, so now Dubai is putting in some regulations with regards to calling and soliciting buyers, but I think to a large extent the brokerage business is unregulated. You have RERA, etc., but the soliciting of business,
Yeah.
etc. Now that's come under the purview of TRA, and there are now penalties in place for calling, but because of the demand for property being so high and so many units coming onto the market, that's probably one of the easiest ways for brokers to
Cold
find
calling.
clients. Correct. And not everyone's an extrovert. Not everyone's great at sales.
Yeah.
They don't go to the gym and can find buyers and sellers out there. So calling,
It's easier.
if it's done right, okay, because I receive 20 calls a day, I'd probably speak to one person in a week, because I own a property as well. And when somebody calls me, if I'm genuinely interested, if I hear the other person and he makes sense and he has a good opening, he speaks in good English, he asks me the right questions, doesn't unnecessarily, and if I ask him the right questions, he knows what he's talking, because 99% of the times they don't know what they're talking.
Yeah, they just follow a script, right?
They don't even follow a script. They just call you and they say, are you interested in buying property?
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like,
yeah.
no. But as a real estate owner as well, if the other person makes sense, I can get a lot of information, because I tell people in real estate brokerage, you're not in the property business. We don't sell property. We sell information. Today, you buy a property from me because of the information that I have. If you had that information, you wouldn't come to me. A developer sells property, but a real estate broker sells information. So when that broker is calling me, and if I ask him some questions and he gives me the right information, for me, that is knowledge. I can actually use that to my advantage, and so can you. Today, if you're interested in buying property and a broker calls you and you ask him the right questions and he can give you the right answers, you can actually make better decisions. But you obviously have to get connected to the right broker.
Wow. Okay. So this is a new perspective I just learned from you, Niraj. So it's not about the quantity of calls. It's about the quality of the calls and the callers and their ability to connect with me at a level that is relevant to me on the call in a split second. So he hooks me.
Absolutely.
But that's not the case in Dubai.
That's not the case in Dubai, because
Like out of the 20 people that call me, 25 don't know what they're talking about.
I completely agree. And
Whose
that's
fault is that?
See, that's a challenge that the industry is battling with, because the demand for property is so high that every brokerage feels the need to grow, and then you start recruiting new talent. There's not enough time to train. There's not
Right.
enough time to give them all the knowledge and teach them the entire script. But I agree with you. I don't think cold calling is the best way forward. With digital media,
Yeah.
there's a lot more one can do. You have to invest money, but you get clients, people who are genuinely interested in property, and then you reach out to
It's
them.
warmly, exactly. It's warmly. I
Correct.
mean, we're all on our phones at least 5 to 6 hours a day, right? In any shape, way, or form, whether
Absolutely.
professional or personal, right? And if I'm on my whatever social media or whatever app that can present ads to me, and I just remotely hinted that I'm interested in buying a property, obviously, if your configuration, if your code, if your pixel, whatever it is that you do is clearly and calibrated to find me, then I will get the 100 ads. But you know what, c'est la vie. This is how it is. I'm the one who actually went. And if I'm actually have the intent and interest, I will click. There's no point in calling, but I feel it's, and this is my perspective, and I need to hear your thoughts on this, Niraj. Real estate brokers are lazy. They're so lazy.
Not all.
Not all, but the majority. And the evidence is the 20 calls that we get, you and I, because it's easier, like you said, to hire 20 people from Russia, from Africa, from Philippines, from I don't know, God knows where, set them on, have a KPI of, I don't know, like 200 or 300 calls a day, and then, okay, read the script, and that's it, and pay them probably, I don't know, 2,000 dirhams plus commission plus whatever. Rather than intelligently and strategically design your social media campaigns so it can actually and surgically attack
Deliver.
and
Correct.
attract and deliver to me if I'm interested. Because that requires creative thinking.
That's right.
That's just brute force. You know what? Bring 20 people at, I don't know, like 20,000 or 40,000 dirhams a month.
Correct.
It's fine. It's at least I have quantity of, I have buzz, my office is buzzing with people.
That's right. Yeah.
And that to me is a feedback that, oh yes, I'm working well. I don't care about the feelings of the people. I don't care about the disruption that I'm causing to the economy, practically speaking, right? So what's your thought on that?
Well, I think I agree with you. But like I said earlier, that the business has grown so fast, and some companies have that kind of a mindset where they invest on marketing, they invest on the right kind of advertising to get genuine leads. But the business is growing at such a fast pace, and sometimes, and as a business, I'll speak as a business owner.
Yeah.
We are not always confident that the leads that we give the brokers, because getting leads on social media are expensive. Okay, they can range anywhere from 250 to 500 dirhams per lead.
True.
Okay.
True.
Now, giving that to a new agent who doesn't know how to handle these kind of leads can sometimes be a little sort of it's not that great for the business,
It can backfire.
because
Yeah.
you're giving good leads to them. So when a new agent comes, within our company we don't have a policy of cold calling, but by default
off.
all brokers, that's the lowest hanging fruit. That's the easiest way one can get leads.
It's a
One
path
can
of least
get listings.
resistance, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's the most obvious, and I would say where you don't require any creativity to get that lead, you do it. But like I said, if you invest some more time, forget digital media today. As an extrovert guy, if you have the ability to go out and talk to people, you've got your business. I'm telling you, the amount of business. I keep saying this, that agents who are capable of generating their own leads and referrals are at a very dangerous place, because their demand will be so high, they don't need anything else, because the only thing that people require in real estate is information and clients. And if you have the information and you have the clients and you have a right platform that the company provides you, infrastructure for sales, you can make millions. And these are the guys who are making millions, who are capable of getting repeat buyers, the same buyer buying again from you, referring his friends, his family, coming back. And then what you get from the company in terms of the leads and the digital marketing, that's a bonus.
That's the icing on the cake.
I'm not saying
Exactly.
don't expect it, but treat that as a bonus.
Exactly. I mean, look, this is also part of my work with organizations, the diversification of sources of leads, right? So you have a lead engine, you have a capability within your organization. And then how many leads do you get a day and from what sources? One of which is digital. And I respect that. And of course, when it comes to real estate as a market, as an industry, you have the gap in skill set for those brokers so wide. So I get sometimes a call from a guy who says, listen, you don't know me, I don't know you. If you're not interested, please hang up now. But if you have a minute, listen to me. He immediately hooked me.
Right.
Because he respected me, although it was a cold call. But
Correct.
I was like, fine, okay, what do you have to say? He's like, listen, da 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 da. And then he asked me a few questions. He didn't say, oh, I have this, or this is launched by X or Y. I was like, I'm not interested. Or come to this open house where I'm not interested. He started asking me questions, and I'm not in the market, but he intrigued me. Because a question opens the mind, right? But the first part was respecting me. Now, this is where the danger is. That appealed to me because it was 1 out of 40. Now, if 40 did the same thing,
Then that wouldn't
guess
appeal.
what? It goes back to the original case of you keep on disrupting me. Now, literally, I do not answer. So all my phone is almost always on silent. So my WhatsApp, my notifications, my phone call, everything is on silent all the
Likewise,
time.
yeah, absolutely.
And I see calls. If the number is not my
Recognized,
number one,
yeah.
I know, I recognize, I never call back.
Because in 99.9% it'll be a broker.
Exactly. It's done. It's done. And what happens to me now is it's a disruption to me, because what if it's a client? And it happens. And client actually sends me. Now, I'm in good shape because most of my clients is, again, like high profile and people who understand these type of things.
Right.
So they send text or they send an email and there's a follow-up. But I don't know what I'm missing because of that. You see what I'm trying to say? So there's an onus, or there's a responsibility on, and this is what I expect in Dubai is the identification of a problem, and then the slowly but surely going into a solution. But what's the solution in your opinion?
Well, so like I said, there is at a sort of regulation level, TRA has come up with certain regulations, so you can put yourself on a do not disturb list. So then that gets you off the database, which then allows you to make a formal complaint. So when you get a call like this, you have the rights to complain, and the broker, the agency gets heavily penalized for that. But I think somewhere there's a moral responsibility on each one of us to, when I say each one of us, I mean the brokers, the owners of real estate companies, as well as brokers themselves, to not solicit buyers by just calling, but by maybe sending them a message, a WhatsApp. Today I think with WhatsApp coming in with the automated
Yep.
the WhatsApp business, etc., you can very well have a conversation with the client through a bot on the other side and get to know whether the client is really interested. So it serves the same purpose. If I'm the owner of a property and I want to sell the property, you send me a WhatsApp, and I genuinely prefer WhatsApp communication to talking on the phone.
Yes.
Because if I get 10
Same
calls
here.
a day, and if the person is going to say hi, how are you, and blah 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 blah, and then come to the point, I'd rather he just do that on WhatsApp and I just respond to him. And I tell the same thing to my team as well. If you don't get an answer on the call, just send me a WhatsApp, and with a WhatsApp we respond immediately.
Exactly.
So I think with the WhatsApp integration, you'd see a lot of cold calling come down, but this has to come at a regulation level. There has to be more penalties imposed and a moral responsibility also from the agents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about responsibility because the how free market is. People always take the path of least resistance, and if something can, if it's if out of, let's say, you have a pipeline of 50 or 100 calls a day, and you keep on making calls, and you get 2 clients from these calls, and you can actually push your people to do it, who will stop you if it's not, like you said, a penalty or a regulation? So the model of responsibility is reliant on maturity, and that's something that not doesn't always work. You have to
Right,
have some sort
right.
of an authority that's why, for example, the medical industry is heavily regulated because you can't
Correct.
rely on the responsibility of doctors or hospitals. Same thing with pharmaceuticals, same thing with legal. Legal is one of the highest regulated industries in the world, simply because of the knowledge and the power that these lawyers have, that they can abuse or not. So that's one thing. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. What do you think of the state of the market in Dubai and the UAE in 2025?
I think we are at a great place. UAE, Dubai is at a brilliant place right now, especially if you're referring to real estate.
Yeah,
Because we are seeing, there was a time till a few years back that people used to come to Dubai and say, when there's an emergency, we'll go back home. Like
true.
everyone comes to a different land and they try and save up. So the first property that they buy, I bought my first property back in Mumbai after coming to Dubai, earning for a couple of years, and then I bought my home in India. Um, and what happened during COVID was people realized that during an emergency, it's Dubai that took care of us, and it's our countries that closed doors, and we couldn't go back to our own country. And that is when I think a huge mindset shift happened, where people started treating this as their actual home, not just a place where they've come for a few years to make money. And it gave them a certain sense of security. And that, coupled with the golden visa, I think sealed the deal. So after that, I know a lot of people who have lived in Dubai for 20 years. Okay. And till 2021, they didn't buy a property at all. But come 2021, they bought 15 properties,
Oh wow.
because then they felt this is home. We are not going
Yes,
anywhere
yes,
from here.
yes, yes.
And that, in turn, along with a lot of other measures that attracted wealth from around the world, people from around the world, employment from around the world, has given this market a lot more stability. Today, the population is about 3.84 million,
In
and we
Dubai,
are
yeah.
growing at about 3-4% every year. That's about 140,000 people every year. If you take out the blue collared workers, you're still talking about 75-80,000 people coming to Dubai every year to work. And that's about 25,000 families, because on an average, I take about 2 to 3 people per family, because we're quite a nuclear place.
True.
And so that's about 25-30,000 units a year. Today, on an average, Dubai is churning out about 20 to 25,000 units a year. So the demand is real. It is end user demand. It is actual demand that's coming in from people living out here. Investors obviously are the ones who are benefiting, because they park the money, and then you have buyers renting it out. So we are at an amazing place, I think, in the real estate market, because there is a genuine demand. And apart from that, Dubai has always done stuff to attract tourists. So there was a time in 2004 when I came. Dubai was a 3-day city. Today, Dubai is a 10 days. Not, I would say UAE was a 3-day country. You'd come,
Yeah.
you'd do the desert safari, go to the Gold Souk, and go to Dera city center,
Oh
and you were done.
yeah.
Today, you can spend 15 days. So it's like going to US. Like typically, if you'd go to US, you could spend 15-20 days. Now, you'd spend a few days in Dubai. You'd go to Abu Dhabi, see a few things in Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah.
Yeah.
So you have now Dubai where you can spend 10-15 days. People are coming here, liking Dubai, either buying property, or starting a business, or looking at coming here for employment. So I think 2025, 24 has been fantastic. So last 3-4 years has been great,
Yeah.
and I'm expecting the next few years also to be amazing.
What about how do I say it, the cost of life here? Is it because I keep hearing, especially from people who are starting businesses, who are entrepreneurs, they not complain, but they say that um, a price they have to pay for all of those perks that Dubai is giving you, because all of those people that come, especially the high net worth individuals, the investors, they hike up the price, and then it becomes difficult for education, for healthcare, for even rent, and so on and so forth, for the rest. What do you think about that?
See, you're living in one of the fastest growing cities in the world that provides you with the best infrastructure and quality of life. There is a price that you're going to pay for being in a fast city, in a
Yeah,
fast economy, and you've come here to make money, and you're making money. You're making good amount of money, better than you'd make in your home country. So yes, there is the cost of living is going up, but you look at a city like Singapore, a country like Singapore. Um, it's expensive. It's frightfully expensive. Real estate is about 3 times more expensive than Singapore. The cost of hotels, living in general, is a lot more in Singapore. But Singapore, over the last 15-20 years, has done extremely well. So I think Dubai will go down a similar route where we would become expensive. Real estate will become more expensive, and I think it boils down to real estate because. The biggest cost anyone incurs in Dubai or any part of the world is real estate. The
true.
place that you stay, the where you operate from, where businesses operate from, logistics spaces. So everything becomes more expensive based on the real estate that you own or you rent, and obviously the time to get things from one place to another. So the cost in Dubai, I see that going up over the next few years.
Hmm.
There's no doubt about it, but then we are also earning in dirhams, in dollars, and we are benefiting from this economy.
So it's a value exchange. So you
It's a
mean,
value
yeah,
exchange, and not just that, you pay taxes, which are as a corporate, you pay just 9%
yeah,
as tax. As an individual, you don't pay any tax. So there are ways where you don't. You look at other parts where you're paying 35-40% as tax, and that's insane. So your cost of living is high, plus you pay tax. What are you left with?
that's true. That's true. When you look at it from the grand scheme of things, and to be honest, every time this topic gets brought up, I feel like Dubai is not for the faint-hearted. Dubai is for someone who is actually highly skilled, highly talented, ready to put in the work, smart, because it's an opportunity-based place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's completely opportunity based, and it's become competitive because we want the best of everything, right? We have the best of everything. So and to grow from here, you need to have the best talent. So every business has become highly competitive, not just real estate, but I think across industries has become a hugely competitive business. And today, as a business owner, I'd say that if I'm not there, hustling, I'm not going to get the business. But I like it that way. That's what I've set up the business for. That's what I've become an entrepreneur for. And the people who are doing well, who are thriving, enjoy the hustle and bustle of the
True.
city.
Yeah.
That's what gives them a thrill. And then when you exceed, and you do well for yourself, then and you're part of this growing city. If you wanted to make easy money, then you should have come to Dubai 30 years back, 40 years back, where even if you'd set up a supermarket, you'd make money. If you
Yeah.
want to make easy money, go to Africa. And I think Africa is at a place where Dubai was. Some countries in Africa are at a
Yes.
place
Yes.
where Dubai was many years back. It's huge population, lot of growth. But
There's potential,
easy life,
exactly,
but quality of life is going to take many, many years
to
for.
reach to where Dubai is right now. So you can't
Well,
have your
I don't think I'm not comparing Dubai in terms of any other city reaching where Dubai is. Like each city has their own sort of journey,
true,
but
true.
I'm saying that
From a
that's
choice
from
perspective,
from
right?
a choice perspective, and also it's an easier place to make money because there are less people doing what you are doing.
Yes, yes. It's not as crowded, you mean, from a talent, from a. So from your client base, are they more investors, high net worth individuals, entrepreneurs, or employees?
As a business, I'd say a large percentage of our business comes in from end users, so they are employees. Um,
Employees,
they're,
interesting.
they're employees or businessmen, but not as many investors.
Or entrepreneurs.
uh, Entrepreneurs, of course, yeah, there are entrepreneurs as well, but the actual demand, the majority of the demand comes in from employees.
Employees.
Employees, yeah, the
Okay.
ones, because we deal a lot in ready property as well. But personally, my sort of clientele is more institutions. So I work a lot with developers, with institutions that are looking at buying big ticket, looking at sale and lease back, where they buy an asset purely from a rental point of view, joint ventures, land. So my clientele is mostly in the institutions.
And you see, generally in Dubai, most people buy are employees or business owners and investors.
So I'd put business owners and employees in the same category, for the sake
Mm.
of discussion, because I treat them as end users.
Okay.
So I'd say today, Dubai would have probably about 60 to 70% as investors and 20 to 30% as end users, because
Mm.
there's a huge off-plan market out here, which basically attracts a lot of investors coming in from overseas.
Yes.
They just are looking at having their funds out here,
Yes.
having a home out here, possibly having a golden visa out here, and coming and going as they like. Uh, so I'd say a good 60% are investors and about 30-40% are end users.
The reason why I asked is obviously from a ability to buy perspective. When you're a business owner, or when I say investor, I mean someone who has enough wealth to buy either cash or have a payment plan of just 1 or 2 years.
Right.
When it comes to employees, obviously they'll work with banks or mortgages, and they'll have a payment plan of probably more than 5 years, let's say 5-10 years. So that's sort of the rationale
Understood.
behind it. So
So,
yeah.
so I'll answer that.
Mm.
So, as per land department statistics, only about 20% of this market is of this real estate market takes a mortgage. 80% are cash buyers.
Wow,
That's right. And this is on the
that's
land,
amazing.
that's on the land department website. They have all this information available. You can just, just go out there and see this data, that it's only about 20 to 25% of the transactions actually involve a mortgage. Rest are either on cash or a payment plan,
Yes, yes.
so on and so forth.
That's amazing. That tells a story. That what story
Absolutely.
does this tell?
That tells us a story that there are a lot of investors in this market,
Yes.
because end users largely look at taking a mortgage. So it shows that, so I think it gives a depiction that there are a lot of investors also in this market looking at making a good healthy return of good 7-8%.
And the health. Let's say you mentioned the stability of the market here, and that attracts obviously people who are willing to put in their hard-earned cash, whether it's investors or business owners, into here, especially if it's coming from abroad.
That's
So,
right.
quick thought: what is the main contributing factor to the stability? And I'm not talking about the security and safety, because that's a given, but I'm talking about the confidence in the stability of commerce, of doing business in the Dubai and the UAE.
Right. So I think first and foremost is the low taxes. So you set up a business out here, you're paying 9% tax, that too from last year. Before that, there was absolutely no tax. So VAT was only introduced about 5-6 years back. So the cost of doing business wasn't very high, though it's increasing gradually year on year. Secondly, setting up anything like today, if you want to go and set up a business, it is extremely easy. And with the entire digitization of everything, you can sit at home and get whatever you want. Like, literally, you want to register for something with economic department, your PR, okay, you don't
Mm.
need to physically go. Those days are gone. So the ease of doing business out here.
Sophistication of doing business.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Dubai is a very sort of forward thinking, progressive city. So all of these things are well factored in, from a technology point of view. We are at a very, very advanced stage. So as a simple entrepreneur who's just looking at setting up a business, he benefits drastically from the point of view of the infrastructure that the city provides. whether it's innovation hubs, whether it's blockchain, whether it's Bitcoin, crypto,
Or AI, yeah.
or AI. We are at a very advanced stage. So that gives everyone nice platform to come and take advantage and also contribute.
So when it comes to the investment here, what's relative to the world, right? How's the return on investment for
From a
real
business,
estate?
from a real estate point of
Yeah.
view, okay. So real estate, Dubai offers you about anywhere from 6 to 8% a
Okay.
year as your return on investment.
Primarily from rent,
From
obviously,
rent,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then capital appreciation differs from community to community depending on what time, when you bought it. So if somebody had bought something in 2021 and had kept it till 25, there would easily be a 40-50% increase in the value of the property minimum. I'm talking
Is there a
about.
depreciation?
No, not at all. Not from 21 to now.
Okay.
Like
Oh,
some communities may have had a slightly lesser capital appreciation, but I've not seen any community depreciate in the last 4 years.
okay.
Um,
So relative to the world, the ROI or the capital appreciation, how does Dubai stack up?
so capital appreciation, I think, differs from country to country, city to city, community to community. So that's a very generic opinion. But the ROI, the rental return, I think is one of the highest because no city in the world can offer you, or no growing city, with this kind of infrastructure can offer you 6 to 8% in terms of rental incomes, and that too tax free because you don't pay any property tax, you don't pay any capital gain tax, you don't pay any rental income unless you have to pay that, disclose that in your home country and pay tax on it. But Dubai doesn't charge you. So you're talking about 6 to 8% compared to 2%, 2.5% in other places, one and a half
Hmm.
percent in London, New York, Mumbai, Shanghai. It's virtually negligible. So in those cities, you'd really be looking forward to a huge capital appreciation. In
Yes.
Dubai, even if your capital appreciation isn't as much, you're getting much more than what a secure bond would give you, and it's a physical brick and mortar investment.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So this Dubai market and the UAE market, does it favor the tenant or the landlord, in your opinion?
At this point in
Relative to
time,
the world, yeah. At this point in time,
at
yeah.
this point in time, I think it's favoring the landlord. Uh, but
Ouch.
but but let me be honest with you that tenants have had many years of a good run, like prior to 2020, or even till 2021. For about 5 or 6 years, tenants were spoiled for choice. Landlords didn't want to ask them to leave. um, Rents were growing at a sort of gradual pace, so tenants had whatever they wanted. Today, I think tenants are getting the raw end of the deal because landlords have a certain advantage. They can push the price up based on the regulation. They can serve a notice to the tenant. So I see a lot of owners moving tenants out and selling the property, taking advantage of the price hike. So that's causing a lot of inconvenience to tenants around the city. And I'm sure a lot of lawyers and the rent committee are battling hundreds of cases every
Yeah.
day where you have a tug of war between the landlord and the tenant.
And where is this going, in your opinion? Because I mean, the idea of people moving to Dubai is, remember, the tenant, it's his home. The landlord, it's his property. So there's an emotional element here with the home of the tenant. And even though he doesn't or she doesn't own the property, it's their home. They build memories. They have kids. They have the communities. They have friends, neighbors. And then so let me flip the question a bit. What's the tenure in your how many years typically in Dubai does a tenant stay at an apartment or a property?
Hmm, I don't think there's any research on that, but I think on an average, at least 2 to 3 years is what you
That's too
know.
little, isn't it? For a
I
home.
but Dubai is a transient city, so people who come in, they first take a studio, then they want a one bedroom, then move to a two bedroom, then move to a villa. So I think on an average, if you ask me, 3 years would be what people typically live in a property. Some might live for five,
That sounds about right. Yeah.
some might live for about a year. So I think 3 years is what an average is. But Dubai offers a certain protection, right? So you have to serve a 12-month notice, and that too only if you're selling the property. In other parts of the world, like for example Singapore, you can just give a notice to the tenant and say, this is the market rate, you either pay this or leave. Dubai still offers the tenant a protection saying that a maximum of 25% is what the landlord can increase the rent. That too only if the difference between the current market rate and what the tenant is currently paying is of a certain percentage, can the landlord increase it by 20.
There's an algorithm or there's a
There's a
calculation.
calculator, there's a rental calculator. So there are certain protections even for the tenant, but if on one side we want the city to grow, it's a catch 22 situation. You want the city to
Yeah.
grow, you want to attract investors, and you
Yeah.
tell the investors, listen guys, you can't increase your rent, you have to this is what you'll get. Then
It's a dilemma, isn't it? Because on one hand, you're looking at growth, which is a good thing, obviously, and this growth will obviously feed into everything else, whether it's impact, sustainability, environmental, ability to do other things, to the world, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, you have the community, the feeling, the
But
homes,
I think it's also pushing people to realize that why shouldn't we buy? Why should we continue renting? So you get moved around a couple of times. Yes, not everyone can
but
afford to buy.
that's a big delta, right? Between buying a property for, I don't know, like 3 million, 2 million, 4 million, or renting for, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000. So it's like a big, and you surely are not encouraging people to go take mortgages, because that's a golden handcuff that will just
No, that's not true. I think
Hmm.
if you look at like I said, we started the conversation with creativity in
Yes.
in real estate, and I think if one puts all these details on an Excel sheet, you'll realize that it's pointless to pay the rent to the landlord. You'd rather use that towards the interest, towards the EMIs, and own your own property. You need to do some maths. You need to obviously go ahead and buy the right property, negotiate with the right banks, get the right rate of interest. But if you have a good financial acumen, you can actually beat and save up some money.
But that's mostly for employees.
For employees, even business owners, I'm a business owner, and I have
But
a.
your business has to have good credit to be able
Of
to.
course, that's right. Yeah, you.
So if you're a new entrepreneur, or you just
Correct.
jumping from one
Correct.
pivot from one
That's right.
startup to the other startup, you're out of luck, isn't it?
You might not be able to take advantage of the mortgage out there, but developers offer you a post handover payment plan, so then you can take advantage of a post handover payment plan. See, there's no one size fits all.
Yeah,
It's it's
yeah.
it's 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 an opinion that I feel that people should start looking at buying their own home at some point in time. But if you don't, then you have to kind of live
Deal with yeah,
with
you
the
can't,
challenges.
yeah. I mean, this is always something that, whenever someone asks me about buy or rent, mortgage or cash, and all other variables that come with it, it's really a case by case basis. So, for example, if I talk about myself, right? So I had multiple properties from multiple developers, and I had it for since 2009, right? But then when I wanted to start my business, I did it. So I had some as fully paid, some on mortgage. And I said, you know what? Now I have to focus all my energy on my business, right?
Right.
So I liquidated everything. I let go because the rent was crazy. Handling tenants it's not the best thing in the world. I have to be very honest. And the other thing is, which we'll talk about in a minute, the quality of properties here is, and we'll talk about it. And I need to hear your thought. But from a business, let's say venture building perspective, because I'm still not a business owner, quote unquote, in the stable
Right.
sense. I'm still in the I'm still on the tarmac, if that makes sense. So I wanted to have that cash. So I said, you know what? Let me just get all the money in the business. Let me just build the business until and unless this business is profitable in the most stable way. Then I will look at other sources of income, which is property and everything else. But stretching myself thin at this point in time is not something that I wanted to do. So that was my decision, right? And it's
Right.
very specific to my case. Others are employees and they're able to get mortgages and they're happy with that. I wasn't, because a mortgage kept me with the golden handcuff. And what I mean by that is I couldn't, for example, as an employee, think of a time where I don't have a salary. Because the salary, guess what? 30% of it goes into XYZ. And if I
That's
don't have
right.
a salary, and then that mindset is just keeps me from being courageous.
Of course.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like that's the kind of trade-off that I had to make for a period of my life. But then when I let go of this weight, I was able to go faster, do something else, which I own.
Right.
Now, once things are good, then obviously the business will generate money for me. And then I will look at buying properties or investing in properties and
Right.
then
Right.
getting it as a passive income. What do you think of this thought when it comes to people?
Well, I think today the new age generation has that kind of a mindset where you don't want to be tied down to a mortgage, to a loan, to something that is and some people might not even want to live in the same property for that long. They just want to live in it for a year or two or three and then move on to something else. So I think then in such cases, Dubai also offers a lot of property owned by institutions. You have a lot of companies that own property. You might not get it in exactly the place where you want, but there are lots of areas in Dubai which are institutionally owned properties, and those institutions don't have a tendency of kicking you out because that's not how they operate. They're not looking at selling the property immediately.
Interesting.
They buy it for a long-term yield play. It's a yield play for them.
Ah.
So a few thousands here and there doesn't really affect them. They'll give you rent increases as per the calculator, but you can continue living out there for as long as you want. It's in the freehold areas where you have the individual buyers who are keen to time the market. So they buy a property, they rent it, they see the price going up, they sell it, and then they book the profit. And that's where the tenant gets the inconvenience.
Yes.
But you live in a property that's institutionally owned and you'll be there. I know people who are living in the same property for the last 20 years.
Interesting. That's a choice. I didn't think of that choice. Yeah. So instead of just getting from individuals or individual investors, you get from institutions. And
Correct.
yeah, that's true.
But you might not have the best of everything because it might
Course.
not be in the community that you
Let's
want.
say in
It might-
downtown or
yeah,
yeah.
correct. So in downtown, I don't think there's anything which is institutionally owned, or maybe just a couple of buildings. It might not necessarily have the amenities that you're looking for. So there is some kind of trade-off there.
Okay. So when it comes to investors, do you think rent out or holiday home?
I personally would prefer rent out. Holiday homes only in certain areas, in my opinion. Because Dubai is this great city where a lot of people come in to stay, but um, the holiday home business, firstly, is hospitality. That's not real estate, in my opinion. I'm giving that for a holiday home, but I need to make sure that it's very well managed. I have that much more wear and tear in the property, and most importantly, the rent that I'm getting on a monthly basis. When I rent out uh, on a long term basis, I get either one, two, or three checks at best, depending on the
True.
community.
True.
But when I do this holiday home, I get it on a monthly basis. Okay, there's much higher wear and tear, and personally, I've seen that if it's not in a very very touristy area, the returns are not too different. So I'd probably get 20% more, 30% more than I would in the long term renting business after deducting all the costs. Because in a holiday home, I have to furnish it, I have to pay the utilities, I have to pay
Yeah.
everything, and then I have to pay a company a huge amount to manage it because
True.
they're sending their people every day to do housekeeping.
The operation of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the cost of operating a holiday home, if it's not in a touristy area, can be high, and the returns not as good as the busy areas.
So it's probably downtown or Marina or
Downtown,
others.
Marina, JBR,
JBR.
these are sort of I think no-brainers. If you have a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom, then they can do extremely well because the churn is very high. People come there even during summer, and but in other locations, I think the short-term rental, the difference between, let me put it this way, I wouldn't say it's bad, but the difference and the hassle to get that difference is not
Yeah.
worth it in my
It's
opinion.
not worth it. So there's other costs that are not monetary, but it's you'll have to spend, and it will
That's
not
right.
it will not
That's
make the
right. Yeah.
deal good. Let's talk about the quality, because I have my own strong opinions about quality.
I don't disagree.
I'll tell you what, I traveled to places around the world. I was in Europe, I was in Singapore. That's my own naive realism. So it's not research, it's not me speaking to people, it's my own personal experience. So I lived in my own apartments, in my own homes here in Dubai. I rented, I leased out my own properties to my tenants. Things break where they shouldn't break, like pipes behind walls that break only 3 years after handover. And I'm talking about like I'll be very, this is uncensored. So I'm talking about Imar, I'm talking about Azizi, I'm talking about Demak, I'm talking about really well-known brands. It's not like this is the one, building property developer or something. What's up with that?
Well, I don't know in terms of the brands that you've named. I think there's definitely an issue when it comes to certain developers.
I don't think it's a developer thing. It's probably a contractor or someone below them.
But at the end of the day, it's the developer who is responsible for
Right.
what the contractor delivers.
Hmm.
And I have seen some private developers and some projects face that kind of issue, but I haven't seen that across the board with some of the big names. Like definitely not with the large names in Dubai. But yes, the medium to small size companies, we have seen certain challenges. But what I recommend my buyers to do is that if they're buying a product which is from a developer who is not that well known, or even if he's well known, I say that go have a look at some of the communities that they have already built, and look at some of the projects that they've built. So let's say there's a developer who's put in 4 projects and now he's launching the fifth, and my investor says, "How's the quality?" I say, "Come, let's have a look at what he's constructed."
Wow, that's
Because
good.
as a real estate owner,
Yes.
a real estate business owner, I have taken a certain sense of moral responsibility to push only projects and developers that I'm convinced about. You might have certain developers coming up with projects in certain areas which don't convince me. I find that difficult to convince my buyers. So even if it's the biggest developer, one of the biggest developers coming up with a great project,
Yeah.
but the location doesn't appeal to me, then I tell my investors and buyers, listen, I don't think this is where you can make money. The developer has their own reasons, or probably the developer is launching it with a much bigger outlook that it's something that's going to do well in 10, 15, 20 years, but today is not necessarily going to give you the capital appreciation. So you'd rather invest in some other community. So let's look at individual projects, individual developers, and you look at the kind of communities. So I don't know, in terms of comparison, when you visited these other cities vis-a-vis Dubai, you've looked at probably the best out there with something average out here. I don't know if you've really compared apples with
No,
apples.
it was apple to apple, because when you talk about a property, let's say in downtown, in one of the prime locations, but I think, because in my mind, I was like, how would someone somewhere, like a developer, knows about silly problem, like for example the what do you call it, how the water goes into the drain in the bathroom, right? So it goes in, it's not actually going to the right direction. I don't know, you call it the slope, you call it the kind of
Correct.
This is a problem, right? You are walking and then there's this one tile, like a ceramic tile, that is empty. So you knock on it and it's like there's empty under it, like it cracks.
Yeah, but I think what you're talking,
It's very nuanced, and like there's no, and other things only break 2 years after. So you have the 1 year warranty, and then it breaks after, whether it's the AC unit, whether it's the drainage, whether it's and just becomes an inconvenience that you have to live with, right? Whether you're whether you're a tenant or a landlord. So I paid once for my property, for my tenant, I think 25,000 dirhams. Wow. Because his main pipe, the pipe that brings the water in, which is behind the wall, burst. And then when the kind of contractor came in and fixed it, I asked him, how can this happen? He said something, I'm not an expert, I'm just parroting what he said. He said, you cannot have an elbow, I don't know what that means. You cannot have an elbow as the main water coming in. because it just the water keeps on pushing on this,
Right.
and in time it has to have like a flow, and then it distribute whatever. But the point is, this little contractor knows this. How come this part of the design happen? And now, of course, I sold the property because he said it will happen again, right? Now, but the interesting part is what you said. Go look at other delivered communities. Look at but how would you know? I mean, let's say that's step one. Then what do they do?
See what happens behind the walls and ceilings, nobody knows. It's difficult to find
Very difficult.
apart from finding out. So I think there's a certain sense of responsibility every buyer and investor takes.
Yes.
Like today, if you're investing in stocks, you'll do some research on the stock that you're buying. It'll be proposed to you by a broker, but you'll try and do your own. If you don't, you can't just blame the person.
What are the
selling it to you.
signals you should look for?
So I think one should look at the way the developer has attention to detail. Like today, things may break down, but some developers are known to have these things fixed promptly. You know, you look at the lobbies.
So reputation
of the developer.
How do you know that?
Look at the so reputation of the developer, I think is obvious, at least for the big ones. The small ones, you'll have to see what they've delivered. Walk around their communities, their buildings, and find out how things are. Speak to tenants and buyers, owners within that property, and see whether they're happy with the kind of product. Because you could have, I've seen in some cases where certain fairly large developers have different quality between two different buildings, because for whatever reason one contractor wasn't that
That's
great
what I'm saying.
and
Yeah.
didn't deliver a great job. But I also think that some of the things that you mentioned with regards to the tiles, etc., these are challenges that we used to face a lot more earlier.
Kitchen cabinets breaking in literally 3 years.
I think this market is evolving. So initially there were a lot more, the first 10-15 years. So as an industry, as we are growing, we are learning, and we're employing the best practices. I think the new towers that are being launched now or handed over now have far less problems than the towers that were handed over 5 years back.
This is, so I told you I was born and raised here, right? So I lived in Abu Dhabi initially, and then when I became a professional and working and living on my own, I came and lived in Abu Dhabi slightly, but then in Dubai. I moved to Dubai. I remember we stayed at an apartment in Abu Dhabi for almost forever. So from the 80s until the 90s, like 10, 15 years. Can't remember a single problem. Like the door handle never got loose. Here, the door handles get loose every now and then. The key is always smooth. Here, the key becomes jamming and you have to, I don't know, spray things. You know what I mean? Like there are things in the kitchen. The kitchen is always like, you see the kitchen. I'm talking about the old developments, right? Not the ones that are owned by like commercial or whatever, like the old types of buildings.
Right.
So I don't know if it's maturity, if it's stability, if it's sort of people got opened into the commercial side of things, so they cheapened out, and then now they're understanding that doesn't work. What's your feeling about this?
I don't know. I've not faced like I think this could be a problem across UAE, but I've not seen this not happen in Abu Dhabi and only happen in Dubai.
No, not Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I'm saying
Correct.
my personal experience was in Abu Dhabi back in the 80s and 90s.
Where the quality was
Where
good.
the quality was good. I don't know about the quality in Abu Dhabi now. I don't have first-hand experience, but I'm
right.
just talking about what I hear. Again, this is my perspective. I could be wrong here. It's not a research or anything else. But like every time I speak with landlords or with other friends who own their property and live in it, I mean, let's look at when it rains.
Yeah.
And what happens to let's say, villas or townhouses, and how, I mean, my brother had a townhouse, and every time it rains, it wreaks havoc. It's a nightmare.
Correct.
I mean, I mean, I come from Jordan. We have obviously our houses and our properties in Jordan. It rains like crazy in Jordan, more than here, obviously. And I can't remember a day where it leaked or where it had these issues in the ceiling and this and that. Is it the weather? Is it the commercial?
I think the Dubai had never built houses to handle rains. Because
that's
never
the maturity you're talking about.
Yeah,
probably.
But it started raining in this city only in the last 4 years,
True,
5 years.
True.
Before that, there was hardly any rains. Like I've lived here for 20 years. There was probably a few scattered showers in the month of Jan, and that's about it. We now you see it raining even in April and sometimes even May. and you have these huge, these thunderstorms that happen sometimes. So this market wasn't built to handle rains. You see, the properties that'll be handed over in the next 3-4 years won't have these challenges because they've factored all of that in right now. They built the entire infrastructure after the last flooding that happened last year. It's not about the villa. The city came to a standstill.
No,
Right?
that's different. Yeah. So last year is a complete.
Correct, but the city wasn't equipped to handle
True,
that. But
true.
I think my personal view is that we get new challenges and then we find a solution and fix that. So it's the speed at which we sort
Yes,
out these issues.
100%,
And
hands down.
today, choose a developer that has an understanding of how to solve the problem, because nobody knew that it's going to rain so much in Dubai. But there were some developers that were prompt, and
Yeah.
they immediately came to the rescue of the tenants, of the owners, and made sure. And some developers even said that we won't charge you anything. Whatever maintenance we do for these drains is going to be absolutely pro bono.
And that's, I think this is the key takeaway is, it's the onus, the responsibility is on the investor, is on the buyer to do their due diligence. Just buying and expecting, because it's here or there, or because it's from this developer or that developer by
Correct.
default. It's exactly like, I love your analogy with buying stocks. Right? You don't just go and throw your money at portfolios or stocks. You have to do your due diligence.
Correct.
If you can't, go educate yourself. Go study or ask advisors. Ask trusted advisors who will give you advice, and then make your own decision based on that. And I take this from my own community. So I live in a community now where when Christmas breaks came, people are always talking about how safe Dubai is and it is. That's hands down. That's a fact, right? That's an objective fact. But still, you can't take that for granted. You can't just leave $1,000 or $1,000 on a table expecting people not to take it. I mean, people will always be people. It doesn't matter. Even if you're in Mecca, or in the Vatican, people will take it. It doesn't matter. So our community manager, the community kind of company, put flyers that please lock your houses when you go on vacations, and do not announce that you're going to vacations just on social media and everywhere, especially if you're someone who's known or have followers or everything else. Right. And I looked at it and I was pleasantly.
It's common sense, right?
It's common sense, but it's sometimes you forget the common sense because you're too much leveraged. You're too much sort of living in a place where you forget. So sometimes we forget that because of how stable, how secure, how mature people in Dubai are, and Dubai, how it created this environment that actually is a quality of life that you can't even dream of anywhere else in the world, like you said, it makes us lazy. You know what I mean? Like it makes us lazy even in our own due diligence. Like, so if it's in Dubai, then for sure it's okay, which is, I think it's unfair. It's unfair to Dubai. It's unfair to everyone else. And the key takeaway is do your due diligence, right?
Do your due diligence. You need to take your own measures to protect yourself. Right? The city is safe, and you have the advantage of the city, but don't be stupid.
Yes, because no one will protect you if you're stupid. Okay, so let's end with this. I'll give you some fire choices.
Okay.
And you have to make the choice quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so buy or rent?
Buy.
Sell or lease?
Lease.
Off plan or ready?
Ready.
Abu Dhabi or Dubai?
Dubai.
Saudi or UAE?
UAE.
Azizi or Emar?
Emar.
Oh, beachfront or downtown?
Beachfront.
High rise or villa?
Villa.
Luxury or affordable?
Luxury.
Residential or commercial?
Commercial.
Do you prefer local buyers or international investors?
International.
Quick flips or long hold?
Long hold.
Oh, okay. Penthouse or garden barbecue?
Garden barbecue.
Private island or penthouse?
Private island.
I really enjoyed it, Niraj. Thank you very much for your
Likewise.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.